Hi all. Bonjour, bonjour. We'll give everybody a few minutes to get here. It is. Hi, Angela. It is hotter than hell out here. I'm in the shade. Won't be in the shade the whole time, so we'll see. This might not be, we might cut this one shorter a little bit depending on how hot. It's 91 degrees here in Paris. It is the hottest day, but the rest of the week is going to be in the 70s and even some rain. I'm actually kind of excited about that. But we'll give everybody a second to come in here. I am in, of course, Place Vendôme. You have the Vendôme column up there with Napoleon. And today's walk is going to be about Josephine, his first wife, and a little bit of, you can't have Josephine without Napoleon. So a little bit about Napoleon. And we're starting here in the Place Vendôme because there's quite a few numbers here that had to do with the two of them. Even the breeze right now is hot. But it's pretty quiet here today at Place Vendôme. You have the Ritz over there. And everything else in here, most of the stores, especially across the way, which is where we're going to walk over there, a lot of these are jewelry designers. And so you have some of the major designers here. After I was putting together some notes today, I was like, we need to do one. I need to do one just about Place Vendôme and talk about all of the different, because there are very historical houses here. They each have their own story. They're very interesting. And that's all kind of fun. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So here at Place Vendôme, most people know this because of the Ritz, but here you have Rolex. But just right down here, you actually have part of the court of France. So just right next to the Ritz, where those arcades right there, that is actually part of the court system here in France. And I'm over here starting at this corner here at number 7, which is now the Cour Vendôme. They're doing some sort of special event in there, so that's why those two guys in security, they're only letting people in with a wristband. We weren't going to go in there anyway. But this corner here, hi Sharon, because this is the corner where the Department of War was. And so when Napoleon was a general, he was moving up, and he was actually a very, very intelligent general, and he kind of rise quickly through the military school. His father kind of did some little switcheroo, some sneaky stuff to even get it in to the École Militaire, and then he ended up moving up quickly. And that's what he was like. He did such a great job during the Revolution, and during those years afterwards. That's why everybody was like, he's so great, he's so great, he's not like these horrible kings, we love him. And then that's not how the story ended. But here at number 7 is where the Department of War was. And the Department of War, he gave him an office here. They gave him, and he was right up there in those. Could you imagine? He's just up in those windows right there. You do see all of the Sun King sun on those balconies, and that's because this was created under Louis XIV, and I'll tell you that in a second. But this is where Napoleon was, and he had this office. And when he was here, Josephine's first husband, Alexander de Beauharnais, he was just a real jerk, and he was actually arrested during the terror, and he was beheaded. And Josephine was also arrested, but luckily, it was towards the end of the terror, and her husband was killed, which I don't think she lost many tears over that one, but then she was also arrested, and she was released because Robespierre was killed, the terror ended, and luckily her timing was just really good. So after he was killed, her son Eugene really wanted his father's sword, and so the Minister of War, Department of War, it still had that, and so he really wanted it. And so Eugene ended up having a meeting with Napoleon and said, how much this would mean to him. And Eugene was only like 8 years old, told him how much this would mean to him, and Napoleon gave it to him. And the next day, Josephine came and met him, and they had met just before that at a dinner party, but she came here to say thank you. And he said that she was every bit of a woman from her down from her toes to her fingertips. So he was pretty enamored with her from the very start. Josephine, I love Josephine, but she also was a very smart woman who also learned that after her husband was killed, and his family was pretty nasty, and there was like, well, he's dead now, you're getting nothing. And so she had to figure out how to live, because back then women couldn't be like, oh, guess go get a job now. So she was pretty smart. She sided up to some pretty powerful men over time, and when she met Napoleon, I think that he definitely was infatuated with her, and she really cared about him. But she also knew she needed somebody to take care of her. So he was just over here at number 7, and we're going to go over and around the way. That's always a great little pass through most days of the week. You can just pass through, because the next street right behind us, just through this building, is the Rue Saint Honoré. But the Place Vendôme was created under Louis XIV, and that's why you have all the little sun kings on there. But it was first, the idea was floated out in 1677, and in 1699, Mansart, the famous Mansart roof, he had this design. And they ended up selling it to the public. But the outside, just much like Palais or Place des Vosges, you could do whatever you wanted on the inside of it, but the outside, this is how it had to look. So they had created this front structure, and then they started selling all of these pieces off to everybody. And most of them went to ministers and people that worked with the king, much like Place des Vosges, all went to people that had worked with Henry IV. And over here at the corner, on the corner of, this is Place Vendôme over on the left, and the Rue de la Paix. And this, at number 2, here is the Louis Vuitton store now, but it was a Hotel Marquis de Bourgogne. It's Louis Vuitton. They owned around the corner too, where they have Goyard and a few other stores that they now own. And Louis Vuitton actually owns probably half of the jewelry shops that are actually in here. And you can see there's the plastic jewelries over there. But at this office there, number 2, was in 1799. A gentleman moved into there known as Maurice Jean Regereau. He was a notaire, a notary, and you need one of those here to do just about anything you want legally. And he was the one who signed off on the marriage of Napoleon and Josephine. And she even he advised her. Um, he had said at first, like, you shouldn't marry him because he's not worth anything more than his sword and his cloak. And when he was coronated, he was at the coronation, and Napoleon had overheard him say this to Josephine. And he went up to basically was like, hey, not so bad now, right? So, Napoleon. But hey, who wouldn't feel that way if you overheard them? And then you go on to be the emperor of the whole world. Well, he wanted to be the emperor of the whole world. You have the mascarons up there. Up here in those offices, there are the Valentino. You can see it actually up there. But I remember watching a documentary about Valentino, and it was when he was still designing. And I was like, oh, I know exactly where he is. And now I just noticed, as I said that to you, it says that up there at the very top of each little window. But I love those crazy, like, thistle like curly cues that basically block it so people can't break in, but they're so pretty. So this shop right here, Rouget, is one of the oldest watchmakers. Goes back to 1775. I am invited to go in there to see their special museum, and they're going to show me a bunch of things, and I can't wait to go do that. I'm hoping to do that in the next couple of weeks. But this is an amazing place because Napoleon actually bought 3 watches there from them, and then Josephine as well. But they made the very first ever wristwatch, and it was made for Caroline de Bonaparte, and she was his Napoleon's sister, and it's the very first wristwatch. And they have a version of it there in gold. They actually started making a version of that that you could buy. Um, you probably, if you bought that watch, you probably wouldn't be able to come to visit Paris for a few years unless you had a very large bank account. But I mean, how cool is that? So the very, very first wristwatch was made for Napoleon's sister, who was the Queen of Naples. But look at that gorgeous, all these doors. But you've got Dior. I think there's some Dior offices, some Mikimoto pearls. Oh, I'm glad it's nice and clear. That's fancy, my fancy fun phone. This the newest iPhone. The camera on it really is amazing. Oh, and thanks whoever gave the little like. If you guys are watching it, it helps if you give some little likes for it. So here, too bad the windows are closed. This is Chaumet. I watched that they had the windows open because I was over here yesterday. Um, this is also where Chopin died. He died actually here on the ground floor. He had the ground floor and basement apartments. But, and then Eugenie, who would marry Napoleon III, she lived here right after he died. She, she came in here. She moved in here in 1859. Chopin died in 1849. 1851 is when she moved in here. But Chaumet is the one that was the jeweler to Napoleon and Josephine. They created the sword that he had on him during the coronation, and that sword is now at the Chateau de Fontainebleau, which is they have a Napoleon museum there. And when I first saw that thing, I just about died. Um, it is has tons of diamonds. It had 140 carats of diamonds in it. They also made a tiara that she wore on the day of the coronation. But they were kind of the official jewelers. The jeweler that did that at the time also had done stuff before that for Marie Antoinette. So when you were kind of the official, it's a pretty good gig. But isn't that pretty? The blue is, look at the blue on the door, it's gorgeous. I'm not making this all a door tour. I got stuff for you guys. Oh, JP Morgan. So it's very quiet over here. I was over here yesterday morning, um, and it was a lot busier. It's much busier during the week. Gucci. But they go all the way in. And so this is one of those with you want to nerd out a little, just go on Google Maps and do the satellite. And then it's always really cool to see, we're not showing that on. It's always really cool to see the courtyards and you can see really how the buildings are laid out. Then Clef, Chrissy, but there's always tons of security here. When I walked through here yesterday, I had all these very handsome gentlemen in black suits with their little clear ear earbuds in, probably checking out the people. Today's not a good day because everything's closed up. But this is a fantastic area just to walk around and look in the windows, especially where the Bulgari store is. I'm going to go to the other side of the street so we could get some shade. But the column up there, the column was first done in 1810. 1871, it was toppled over during the Commune. The artist Courbet, who was an artist that liked to shake things up, but he also just had this very he and I would be best friends because he was like, this is the way it's supposed to be. Things should say classic. This is how this isn't how it should be done. So he complained about the Napoleon statue that was on the top, and he said it should be changed. And so he complained about it, and then a big group of people got together, and they walked up there because there's stairs all the way to the top, although it's not open to the public, and tied a rope around Napoleon. And they covered the whole area below it in sand and hay. And a couple hundred men gave it a big tug and pulled it down and destroyed it. Courbet wasn't even there, but he got in trouble for it. They arrested him, and they even blamed him for it, and it basically ruined him. He had to sell all of his art. He had to sell all of his things, and then once he paid for everything he owed, they sent him to jail. And then when he got out of jail, he left and he went to Switzerland because he thought they're just going to come arrest me again. And then they just continued to kind of take everything from him. So this little spot here, I think I tried to do this on a walk with Kate, but I think something happened on the way. So this little store right here, I'm in Kada. The reason I stopped here, it's not Josephine, it's another woman that a king loved. But Louis XV's great love of his life, Madame de Pompadour, guess where she's buried? Right there, underneath the sidewalk. So this was the convent of the Capucines. That's why you have the street up here that's the Boulevard de Capucines, because this was a whole entire convent that was here, from 1604 to 1806. And in 1806, it was taken down when they were starting to push through here to add Rue de la Paix. And so it was torn down. And when she died, she was buried next to her mother here at the convent. And they say that her coffin, she is still buried here beneath the street. Somebody told me that's always a naysayer about everything. He said, "Oh, nope, that's not true. She's over at she's probably in the catacombs." But I've read quite a few things and talked to somebody else that says, no, that's what he understands too. So she's right here on the sidewalk. There's not even a sign or anything for her. Isn't that sad? So we'll continue on. The Cartier store, the flagship store up here, it just reopened after a very long restoration. I'm excited to go in there. There's a really great book about Cartier, although I heard some things about some things during the war, World War II. But I haven't looked into them myself yet. So this store here, stand out here in the street with this giant tour group. This store here, number 9, this dates back to 1613. It's another one of the oldest jewelry stores in the world, jewelry makers. And this is another one in Napoleon and Josephine purchased many, many things. Look at up there, the Vendôme column next to the statue. So it used to be called Louis le Grand, Place Louis le Grand. And it used to have that statue of Louis XIV in there where you could see a small version of that. The only part that remains is a small version that's in the Louvre. But this is one of the oldest jewelry stores in Paris. And they bought many things here. So here's Cartier. We're going to go up here, take a right. You have to go. So look at how cute this little thing is. Let's see where you get like don't know what that is. There was an exhibit a few years ago at the Musée des Arts Décoratifs. Oh, look at that. That was all about the art of Islam and how oh, look at this. And how it influenced Cartier. And you've got the panther on there. I have a ring my grandma gave me, and it's gold, and it has panthers on it, and everybody asks me if it's Cartier, but I don't know, actually, if it is or not. Look at that. That's a beautiful watch. It's nothing like my Swatch watch from the Louvre, though, I'll tell you that. Look at that. Gorgeous. But this is Awfully pretty. They're probably, security's probably not thrilled with me. But we're gonna go up here and take a right. I'm gonna take you by. I thought if it got too hot, we'd just stop in there and have a drink at Harry's. Oh, look at that classic convertible Mercedes, adorable. We're gonna go down here, Rue de Nou, or 5 Rue de Nou is how everybody knows this bar. So Harry's bar is amazing. It opened in 1919, and Harry's. What I love about it, it is the birthplace of the French 75, which is it is my favorite cocktail. But it was born right here in Harry's. There's a theater here. Let me go across the street real quick. Show you. This guy looks like he should be in some old classic painting, doesn't he? Look at him up there. So, I got sidetracked. So this theater here, the Théâtre de Nou, this theater is what's really cool about this theater is because the inside of it was all designed by Jean Levin. And Jean Levin is the French designer that you should know. Should I put Wyatt in here? What's down here? It's like a club privé. It doesn't look very exciting. But Jean Levin is the one that you should know because she did everything before that woman that I hate. She did sportswear. She did a black dress. She was the first designer with a fragrance. She did everything first before the woman that gets all the credit. The difference is Jean didn't care. She didn't want the credit. And later, Karl Lagerfeld ridiculed her because he was like, well, she just didn't, she didn't even care. But she did it. She cared about learning about art and her daughter. She didn't care about having all the fame and fortune. And so, this woman. But this is Harry's. So, Harry's 1919. So 114 years, but it's super cool. Oh, I just got a blast of cool air. And it is this guy. He bought this bar in New York. He had it all taken apart and he brought it, he sent it in a container ship, sent it over here to Paris and installed it. He had a bartender working for him at the time named Harry, and he sold the bar to Harry. So that's why it's Harry's New York bar. But it is really cool because they totally copied this from the Ritz. But they created the Bloody Mary here, which is actually called the Bucket of Blood. They also did the French 75. You have all this. See, 1920, 1912, that's some of these coming. 1920, Bloody Mary, 1925, French 75. The sidecar, the Belvedere, the Coronation, the James Bond, all of those. They also have hot dogs. So if you go in there, the only thing they really have to eat is hot dogs. And I did it one time because I came here. It was like 3:30 in the afternoon. I'd been walking all day. I was starving. And so I got a hot dog because my grandpa loved hot dogs. And it was actually really good because it's not like American hot dogs. It's actually made with like meat, not like, pig, pig, pig lips. But this is also where a lot of people used to hang out. That's gross. And where WC wrote one of his songs. I was walking by here yesterday and it said tacos. I was like, what? But the tacos here, this is what a taco is. And they had it on the news and they're supposed to be worse for you than hamburgers. That's not a taco. I really want a crunchy shell taco. I told Angela yesterday to bring me tacos when she comes in the fall. But we're just right up here, right by the opera. And if my friend Brandy is watching, we'll pop our head down there for a second. So she could see her boyfriend on the front of the Opera House. Are you watching, Brandy? There he is. She was just in Paris a few weeks ago when I had the five wonderful ladies. Angela bring taco shells. You're gonna have to pack them in bubble wrap and hot sauce. Anybody that comes to Paris, I need hot sauce. I'm not kidding. I did actually find a company, a French company that makes hot sauce, and I found it at the Epique, which is kind of part of Monoprix. It's called their fancier place, and I got the one that was 10 out of 12, and it's habanero, and it is hot. Carry them on. Pack them in your carry-on. So this little store, this street here, the Rue d'Antin, right down here, it's not too bad actually in the shade. There's a tiny bit of a breeze, which is helping. So this street up here, yes, there's a fancy Monoprix. It's called Epique, and it's in the Marseille Saint-Germain, and it is where the Marks and Spencer was, because the Marks and Spencer's closed because they couldn't get stuff here. And then when after Brexit, the law was is their drivers could not come here. They could come, but they could only make one stop. So they get to the border and drive over here, they can make one stop and then they have to turn around and go back. So it's really, that's why a lot of British products you aren't finding anymore. So my friend that loved Marks and Spencer's and he could go and get like crumpets and things like that, he's upset about it. But you could probably still go over there, get it just as easy. So this street here, Rue d'Antin, this here at this building, number 3, you actually have some plaques on here. This says on the 9th of March, 1796, this was the mayor's office of the second arrondissement. And this is where the marriage of General Bonaparte to Josephine de Beauharnais happened. And then they put this little plaque up here on the same day in 1996, the 200th anniversary. Look at this great. Look at that guy. I posted a picture of this yesterday. I love the top part the best. I love these. But this is now a bank. But it was right here, and they got married. And so it was the 7th. So on the 7th of March, they came here to sign some paperwork. And then on the 9th of March at 7 p.m. is when they only had one witness here, Paul Barras. And he came here, and he used the address. His address is at Rue 7 Place Vendôme, as is where he lived. And he sat here, and she was here for 3 hours waiting for him to show up. And she was also, of course, in a panic, and nobody wanted them to get married, but she was really worried. And they say they still don't really know exactly where he was, but some say that he was falsifying their birth certificates because they had to have that for the civil ceremony. And they took 40 years off of her age, and they added 18 months to his age, so they were closer together in age. But when they had the Sacre de Napoleon, as depicted in Jacques-Louis David's amazing painting in the Louvre, when they got to Notre Dame that day, and there's Pope Pius there, and he would not let him come in through the front. He made him come through the side door, and then he was talking to him, and basically it came up that they had never had a wedding ceremony in the eyes of God. So they only had a civil ceremony. They didn't have the religious ceremony. And he said, the Pope says, well, I can't actually perform this. He's like, I can't actually perform this for you if the two of you aren't married. These are really great chocolates that are really fun gifts to give. And they all have really fun little different pictures on them. They're different for every flavor. And then, is it here? No. There's the Oh, you'll see here where there's a line of people. Um, but he said, I can't actually even be here to perform the ceremony. So they had to get married. The Pope had to marry them. And Napoleon was like, nobody could see this. So he made him do it back in the very far chapel, the Apse Chapel of Notre Dame, because he didn't want anybody to see it, because Napoleon wanted the Pope there, because this line here is all for pastries. Ridiculous. And they're really expensive pastries. I mean, they're gorgeous. Look at those. But yeah, I'm not waiting in line for a pastry unless it's, silver fold. But he did not want that, because the whole reason why he wanted the Pope there was by having the Pope there and then basically saying, you're not doing anything, you can just sit here, which is what he did. He took the crown out of his hands and said, I'm doing this, you're not doing it. So it was his way of showing, I am even over you. I'm over the church. I don't need you. And so now that the Pope is here, this is going to be, maybe I better go here. He says, now that the Pope is here, and then the Pope says, I can't even be here at the ceremony. Napoleon was not thrilled about it. So they did actually, a little bouncy house down there. This place, Chateau Voltaire Hotel, and they have the really, really cool bar. Nobody's really ever in there, except that's where David Beckham recently stayed. So I might need to hang out there some more. Really nice bar, very quiet, but that's another cool place to go. But so Napoleon was not thrilled with that, because she did not want to get married in the eyes of the church, because it was easier to get divorced if all it was a civil. If it was religious and before God, she would have had a harder time getting a divorce. So if you look, sometimes their wedding date is actually set as that December 2nd, 1804. When in fact, it was March 9th, 1796. We are now on the Rue de Pétition, and we're going to pop down for a second. Hey, look, is my mom watching? We used to have one of these. Oh, look at there's my purse, and look at here's my new shoes. Look at how cute they are. I went to my favorite place yesterday. I had no intention of going in. I really didn't. I was walking by because I was going to go to Le Fumeur for lunch that I love. I hadn't been there for a long time. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go there for lunch today. Because I've had 4 days without clients after like 3.5 weeks. And about 10 of those days were like 16-hour days. And so I was like, I'm going to go and sit and have a lovely lunch at one of my favorite places. And I just happened to be walking by the Louboutin store. And, things happen. But I was walking by, and my gal, Angelique, was walking out the door because she said she was working in the men's store that day. And she saw me, and well, damage happened. But I saw these shoes. I was like, I really need some white ones with some red on it, because then they match my purse. My grandma, but she's still, I did it for her. But then they had another pair, and I was like, oh, my friend found these other ones. I was like, I don't know, are they cute? So she went in the back and got them, and I tried them on, and they're so cute, and they're so comfortable. And then she said, for you, I'll give you 40% off. I mean, you can't say no to that. It'd be rude. So, of course, I had to say yes. So, it wasn't, and she gave me some perfume, and she gave me some cleaner for my bag, and hugs. And then thing about Louboutin. They have a sale, but they don't say they have a sale. There's no sign, and there's nothing online that says they have a sale. But then when you know them, so there's a sale coming up in the next week. So she knows what I like. It's not so great when your Louboutin gal has you on a text message away. But so here's I love this little place to get flowers. They don't have anything like this near me on the left bank. But I've come here and gotten huge. Oh my God, if wasn't on this, I'd be doing this. Look, you get 30 euros. Those bouquets of lilies are like insanely heavy. And look, they're like triple ones. They're gorgeous. Oh my God, look at that. I might have to come up here tomorrow. Look at the peonies. I love this place. Look at all those colors. Oh, so gorgeous. And they're really sweet. And every time I buy them, he always throws in extras. Oh, wish you could smell that. Here's a very popular misnomer about Paris. Everybody says you don't walk around smiling at people, you don't say hi to people, because people think you're weird. But guess what? I always, in stores and in cafes, I'm always super friendly. And that is why I actually have a ton of French friends. And that's how I have them, is mostly because I would go to cafes and restaurants. And I would go frequently and always be very nice and polite to them and smile and chat with them. And now we're friends. So I know some people that have lived here for 8 to 10 years that have very few actual French friends. They pretty much all stay around the expats, which there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need that where you could all complain about the same bureaucracy. But I didn't move halfway across the world just to only know Americans. Here's some of my favorites. Willie's, it's closed today. So it's kind of funny that I will always like that guy. Every time I go there, I'm like, bonjour, monsieur, and chat with him. And then he always gives me free salad. So, I mean, I wouldn't walk down the street and smile at people like right now. I wouldn't be going, bonjour, bonjour. But if you're friendly, it goes a long way. And they love that because most of them aren't, especially women of over a certain age, that's in my age bracket and older, are never very smiley. So when you are smiley, they love it. And I don't think I'm crazy. I don't think they do. But I'm now friendly with all those people. There's the back of Lily's. It's really great. If you guys have not been here, I know Angela and Renee, you have not. I know Chrissy has because we went there. So we've talked about this before because we did a few walks in a row here. So this is the restaurant in Big Forest. And this is one of the actually one of the oldest restaurants in Paris. Procope likes to say they are. It's not true. So here we've talked about this before. So here in the Palais Royal, this is where Napoleon lost his virginity to a lady of the night. But it was here in the Grand Beaufort where he actually proposed to Josephine. They met in 1795, and then he proposed in January of 1796. And this is a really, really beautiful restaurant. If you have not come here, it is a really beautiful place to go. And this, if you could kind of see through the window, I wonder if we could see it. I'm trying to, okay, wait, maybe. Okay, Hang on. See in between the slat, you see I'm moving back and forth so you can see a little shiny plaque. Can you see that? That actually says on it, Josephine. And this is the seat right here. This banquette is where Napoleon and Josephine sat. And this is where they would always sit when they came in here. And so they have all of the banquettes in here have little brass plaques on it where they all sat. And so the very first table here inside the door is Napoleon and Josephine. It is a absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous restaurant. I don't know if you can see it with the glare, but if you see the ceiling, let me see if I could go up a little. The ceiling is absolutely gorgeous. The very first scene in Midnight in Paris when they're eating, when Gil and what's her nasty face, it wasn't very nice in the movie, when they come to meet her parents for dinner, this is where they come. And it is fantastic. Guy Martin is the chef. He is an amazing, amazing chef. And but this is the seat. This is the seat where he proposed to her. And the first time I came here, I've only been here once on my very first trip. And maybe I think I was talking to my friend, and we should come here to celebrate. But now I'm here all the time. But I was like, I came here, and for lunch for two people, it was 400 euros, but it was still one of the most amazing meals of my life. It was about 3 hours. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I sat in this seat right here on the other side of this window, and it is a seat of Colette. So Colette sat here, so that's the plaques on here, and Jean Cocteau was here on the side. But I really wanted to be the Napoleon and Josephine. I was really excited, and I was like, ah! And then they sat me. But I was like, it's kind of perfect. Colette is perfect because she wrote the Claudine books. So you see it here where it says American Bar. I think I've told you guys this before. But American Bar, the reason that it says American Bar, and where you will see that, especially in Montparnasse, over at the Café des Lilas and some of the Le Dome and those, is because it meant that there was cocktails. Because during the Prohibition, when so many Americans came here, and they really wanted cocktails because they couldn't get those in the U.S. So that's why these places were called American bars. Cafe de Chat is what this restaurant was originally called. So when they came here, this is what it would have been called. But it really is a gorgeous restaurant. And they have changed it since COVID, because when it was that you could only eat outside. So during the week and on Saturday, they have tables out here, and it has more of an a la carte menu. But if you're going to come here, you got to go and you got to do the one inside, and you sit down, and it's a whole like prefix meal. You get choices for each course, and then you get the cheese cart at the end, which is a thing of beauty when that thing comes out. And it's like the cheese cart is bigger than this table, and it has like, I don't know, 50 kinds of cheese. And I just was like, he's like, what kind would you like? I was like, oh, he gave me three. But it's absolutely amazing. I definitely, if you have something special to celebrate when you come, or just if you want to go to see one of the oldest restaurants in Paris, it's so incredibly historic, that is where you should go. I went on that first trip. My grandma had given me some money, and to do something with when I came to Paris. And so I actually thought, you know what? I'm going to do this. So it's still one of my favorite memories, one of the most amazing meals I've ever had, and a gift from my grandma. And so, that's why you can make something up to celebrate. Isn't every day that we're still alive something to celebrate? I mean, really. But Palais Royale, we've talked about this many times. This is the LA Cocteau, which they took those signs down. This used to say the LA Cocteau, and the one on the other side is the LA Colette, because she lived right up on that side. And Cocteau. Um, oh yeah, I'm sure you totally could eat there solo. Why not? You can eat anywhere here solo. Look at it's busy. All of these, there's so many more cafes, these little cafes here now. It's actually not bad right now in the shade. Not bad at all. I left my apartment about 10 o'clock this morning and closed it all up. And I have skylights, but my skylights are so cool because you control them on the wall and you can open them. If they sense rain, they close on their own. But then they have blackout shades. And so I closed everything up. I went to go meet my friend Jacques. My friend Jacques that does stuff for the Louvre. And we went to meet for coffee. And we were together for 4 hours. And we talked about everything about the Louvre and art and museums. And it is literally one of my favorite things to do. And we laughed because his partner, I said, "Where's Yuri? He didn't want to come." He's like, he doesn't want to listen to us talk shop because he's like, "Oh, you too." And I go, "That's pretty much how all my friends feel when I talk about the Louvre." So, but it's fun. I got to hear all sorts of things Tuesday, to this Tuesday.